When it comes to the screen, we always seem to gravitate our eyes towards the big screen in the house, and that's the television. Television culture has changed, evolved, and progressed over the last decade and over the last 100 years in so many ways. I'm pretty sure a lot of you, when you think about television, you think about the flat screen. But do you think about television before it became a flat screen? Like, let's just say in the early 1900s. Do you think about how television was back then? There were two men that were very genius, very smart, very intelligent, that wanted America to have television on the screen rather than just on the radio. These two men are named John Brades and Charles Jenkins. Without them, we would not even witness news. We would not witness any mainstream news. We would not witness any media outlets. We would not probably have Netflix, Hulu. We probably won't be informed on anything that's going on around us. As we all know, when we think about TV, the flat screen, like I said earlier, is the first thing that comes to mind. And probably in the early 2000s, what also comes to mind is the big industrial TV before the flat screen. Without television, we wouldn't witness pretty much anything. We'd have to read it on a newspaper. These two men we have to thank, Brades and Jenkins. The talk of television was bounced around from country to country until it hit their ears and they wanted to bring it to America in 1928. According to a publisher and the insider named Matthew Wilson, the television set has changed a lot over the years. It began from a large box with just 3 channels to a flat screen with high definition. John Brades first invented the television in 1924 using anything he could get his hands on: bicycle lamp, cardboard boxes, anything. By 1925, he introduced his invention to the public by transmitting a dummy successfully. His product, called the televisor, shortly after became the first television sold commercially. But soon his invention would be toppled by Philo Farnsworth, who invented the electronic television, which was way more revolution, way easier to produce. After that, various sources of TVs came to the mix: Macaroni 702, the Motorola Golden View Beyond. In 1940s, that TV alone products sold over 100,000 a week by 1949. The first color television, though, was broadcast in 1953, followed by the remote in the 1960s. Now, the 1960s was very bizarre because they had a lot of bizarre television sets. They had one that had a triangle, one created by Western Germany. Long after those bizarre sets, between the 1980s and 90s, there was the industrial set, which was Philips 21st TV. It became the sample in most homes. By 1989, most Americans had cable in their household. Video games, VHS, became popular in the 70s, followed by the next 2 decades. High definition started to replace the standard definition, and besides, the flat screen also gave both traditional and it gave both growing mainstream. Technology kept rising here on out after 2010. As we know, Netflix, Spectrum, Hulu, and many more. Since all the networks have gone mainstream, it was easier for our media ecosystem to survive. Amanda D. Lutz wrote in What Television Now, published by Sage Production, that between the key components, television was changing into a newer version, emerging in ways that were different from industrial organization to social role. She wrote that Lynn Spiegel said if TV refers to technologies, industrial information, governmental policies, then that would be entering a new phase of television. It appeared to be entering a new phase of television. Lynn also said that between 1950s and the 1980s in America, the formative speech of industrial norms of the then new medium were put into place. Television would become important because of shift of the norms, operations that led to the textual production and its role of culture. The reason why I chose to speak on television is because the television has become a big part of my life, and I say this with emphasis on the big part. Throughout my childhood, I loved television. I would do my homework before I got home so I could go home and watch TV, but I mainly became more connected with TV when I got older. You know, the stresses of the world, the stresses of working, going back to school, there was something I needed to rely on. And the TV is what I relied on. It showed all my favorite shows. I literally put myself in the position of my favorite shows. It was just a stress reliever, especially during now in this quarantine. TV was really something I relied on, and I really just enjoyed the entertainment I watch on it. So I hope you guys understand that television really has progressed over the last decades, and we continue to progress.